G'day everyone and welcome to the summer edition of the Punter Show. We are the old reruns of MASH. We've been cobbled together down here in Melbourne. And as usual, I'm joined by Darren Potter. Potts, how are you, mate?
Let me welcome our new special guest, Dan Kelly, who's back from the Melbourne preview. And of course, Racetrack Ralphie, who's a seasoned professional in media circles in Melbourne.
Yes, well, Potts, there's only two times you do a job like this, or you get a gig like this. On the way up and on the way down. So it's good to be back. No, that's stolen from Shane Bourne, by the way.
We're just going to cover a few things, the highs and lows of the year and whatnot, and what's been happening down here in Melbourne, and probably have a look at it a bit more of a Victorian point of view than what the boys in New South Wales do. So I think the first thing that we need to look at, boys, is what did we all think of the happenings of Saturday, where we just abandoned 4 meetings and then decided to tip some of these other races onto other cards, turning them into 10 race cards from essentially in metro areas from now until essentially New Year's Day.
Well, I think, Chappie, we're only going to discuss it because it happened so recently.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world either way, but there's going to be differing opinions and that's fine. Personally, I think we're getting a bit soft and we could have raced. I think they made the decision a bit prematurely with probably thoughts to back what happened in 2009 in their mind. I think the actual conditions on the day, particularly if they raced 10:30 to 2:30 as they intended, from a apparent temperature or a comfort level point of view, the conditions would have been no worse for horses than they were in Sydney or Brisbane. But that's a personal view, and I'm prepared to move on and just let it go.
Any time we get a day off, rarely happens. We get 2 a year, so didn't worry about it. I was happy to park on the couch and.
I was sitting, I'm thinking, I'm middle of the day, right, as Potts was saying, it's not that hot. Right? It isn't. I'm outdoors, it's not that hot. We are getting a little bit too soft, right? And we should have been racing, this is what I'm thinking. Anyway, then I got out of the pool. Probably in fairness, it is a bit on the warm side. Now, I'll tell you, and we'll probably get to bits about social media, but a great thing about it is that actually information and different perspectives can be put across. And obviously I'm spewing because I can't make money, I sell my stuff, you sell your stuff. But I thought genuinely it wasn't too hot to race, and I saw Reset beat Starcraft at Flemington in the Australian Guineas. I reckon it was about 2003.
Yeah.
And it was 44 degrees that day. I was in the members when I used to go to the race. And I thought, no, it's not too hot. And I happened to be at the Victoria Market about the middle of the day. And then Kate Goodridge, trainer at Kilmore, she actually, I saw her say that it's no place for horses to be on floats in dangerous. And I just thought, yeah, it makes sense. So while you could have raced heat-wise, horses come from everywhere.
There was a fire near the Hume Highway, so those horses come down the Hume Highway at 11 o'clock in the morning.
See, I'm a bit split too, because I actually clerked at Yarra Valley the day before, and it was, as far as I'm concerned, it was as hot on Friday as what it was on Saturday, and yet they still raced, but they, for some bizarre reason, stuck the betting ring out the back rather than underneath the grandstand where it's air conditioned.
Wonder why.
Lucky you weren't in Nebraska. Well, they normally put the betting ring.
Well, that was the other thing I was about to mention. Like, you've spent plenty of time in that Flemington betting ring, Dan. It's the last place you want to be on either a hot, cold, windy, or any other non-22 degree day. So, you're right. From that sort of perspective, Ralph, everyone was probably happy they didn't race, because the last place you wanted to be was wearing a 3-piece suit, standing in the direct sunlight in the Flemington betting ring. So, there were a couple, especially for the northern meetings. Like, there was an interesting point that did get brought up on Twitter, which was Albury raced, and it's 70 kilometres from Wangaratta, and the conditions probably aren't terribly different, but it's just the difference in policy.
Who I feel sorry for, though, is the connections of the horses that were entered in maidens and benchmark 64s. Because will they be able to find another one anywhere?
maybe in the next couple.
I can really.
There's 10 meetings on Friday and Saturday.
I can understand the abandonment of the country meetings for a number of reasons. I really struggle to understand the Flemington side of it because there's just different circumstances, and this is the show.
The race meeting.
Well, no, I don't agree with you. Flemington's it's a different thing altogether. It's in the city, and I'm saying to you that from the part, if you're worried about horse welfare and the welfare of the the strappers, the trainers, and all the staff, I don't think they would have had any more difficulty at Flemington than they would have at Rose Hill on Saturday or at Doomben, where it was extremely humid. So
Or Albury pods.
Albury would have been worse than Flemington.
Yeah.
I'm saying. So I just think if you're going to abandon a meeting just on it was a hot, dry day. There was not an ounce of humidity. I think you guys in Melbourne have become very soft.
No, but would it make your top 50 list of fuck-ups that have happened?
No. So let's move on.
Yeah.
We're just going to cover a whole heap of different topics sort of as we walk through. One of the things we are going to do is compare sort of how some of the differences between what we do down here in Victoria and New South Wales. So, and is there anything actually being done to attract the next generation of punter to racing? I mean, there doesn't seem to be. Like, you look at some of the other rival gaming forms. They sent out an article last night, Cricket Australia, saying that they're thinking about playing Big Bash on Christmas Day. Obviously, it's going to be a huge revenue raiser for them. All you got to do is look at the amount traded on either Betfair, or you talk to any of the corporates about the amount being bet on the Big Bash, and yet there's no sort of new concepts or anything like that that are being brought into racing to try and bring in the new breed of punter.
Well, unlike the boys who work full-time or have a full-time connection, I've got no connection to the punter show other than I love it and I'm happy to be here and I never miss it. The new innovation, so I'm not connected, but the new innovation is the tournament. And it's fantastic. I've yet to play it and I will, but all of a sudden, to me, it's the first new innovation since flexi betting. Genuine innovation where you go, wow, that's something for the wagering customer. And I think the broader point is that the people who run racing, I think this is changing, wait until I hear, is at the moment, the people who run racing have no connection with wagering whatsoever, which is just staggering. If you run a bank, if you run the Woolworths, if you run Westpac, you're going to know more about shopping or mortgages than most of your customers. The people who run racing, most of us know more about wagering than they do, and that's the biggest problem.
Or if you run the Hong Kong Jockey Club, they've sent God knows how many of them over there for the international meeting. Hopefully that they did learn something about. Maybe if we look after the customer,
What chance you reckon they learned?
Well, it's probably very little. But like you had him on the radio the other week. He said, like the customer's king. We do whatever we can. Like, we know that on course only makes up 10% of the turnover, but we want to make the experience as best it can be, because that way it grows the interest in the sport, and from there we can grow the off-track wagering.
So the difference here is the product is the king.
Yes.
The wall-to-wall product is king, not the punter. But the new generation of punters, the kids who are coming through, are just dead set attached to their mobile devices. That's what they want. They want product.
Yep.
And the corporates are all over it. And as far as attracting the next generation, well, the corporates are spending $150 million a year advertising, basically the industry's advertisers, in getting this market, and they want to bet. And if you want to look at it, have a look at the growth in dogs.
Yeah.
You know, short, sharp,
Colourful,
every couple of minutes. You know, and the growth in turnovers is staggering, even through the live baiting and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so the new generation, and that's one of the reasons why I left, Sportsbet when I left, because it was just, as a trader, they just want a product.
Yeah.
Get the product up, get the jockey challenge up, get all these odds and evens up, get the form up, get the early markets up, even though no one can bet on them. You know,
just
product.
So would you say, in fairness, that product equals gaming style situation? So gaming's a poker machine.
Yeah.
And I would say, even though the smart dog punters are very smart, but the majority of dog punters, as Dan was saying, that it's the next race anywhere, I'll back the check or go the pink dog like their promotions are. But in general, it's just the next race anywhere. I don't think racing has that room for growth. I don't think we can compete with greyhound racing that's just product. Because we've proven it. We've put more wall-to-wall shit than any other sport in the world than we've crammed into Australian racing in the last decade and a half. Surely the room for growth, and it's what I've become attached to this show as a viewer and as a passionate viewer, I've learnt so much from the likes of Mark and Glenn and Dal about the way they look at wagering. Yeah. That's what interests me now in the sport. And I think if we teach more people about wagering, they'll be as engaged as we are. Maybe I'm up the wrong tree books, but I agree with you. I agree with you that. But I mean, how long it's taken me to get from when I started out as a young bloke who loved racing to get to a 41-year-old who can make a living out of the punt. Yeah. It's an amazing roller coaster of rides and, going broke and learning and continually learning, still learning every day. And I know there's wagering and there's gaming, but there's obviously a difference. But I mean, the industry gets a clip of every ticket. That's the turnover model, and I don't think it matters to them. So
I think the problem is the administrators look at turnover. That's obviously what's important to them. Yeah. Or gross profit, depending on what model they're using or mix of models. they don't. I don't think they look far enough into it. And look,
Yes.
So the question I want to have for them is: are they happy with where things are? Do they think they're getting what they could be getting out of racing? Has it reached the level? Have they got something they're aiming for? Because if they're happy, so be it. But I think it's the greatest game there is, in my view. It's a biased view, of course,
Yeah.
but it's a game of chess with a scoreboard that's ever changing and it's completely fascinating. It could be so much more than what it is. And the flow of money and the flow of betting is being stifled because the administrators don't, from my point of view, they don't seem to be taking enough of an interest in how good it could be. So I know that they all look at Hong Kong, and with a lot of envy. But
Yeah.
they've got such a small environment that they can look at every bit piece. Where the situation here is so big, it's hard to get down into it and see what's happening. But all I'm saying is to the administrators that this game could be so much better. The turnover could be massively higher than what it is, and that, to me, if you're an administrator, if you believe that turnover could be massively higher than what it is, you really should be breaking it down into pieces and trying to find out where it's being stifled.
I'll ask you a rhetorical question, but I'm not being a smart aleck in doing so because it's for other people to think about. Do you reckon Hong Kong could race 3 times a week if they tried?
Yeah, of course
So they
would.
don't. No, that's the point. And just like in the biggest sport in America, NFL,
Yeah.
they could play more often. I know the body's
And
getting
they're
back up.
pushing to try and do
They
that.
want to create a
Yeah.
demand. Now, at the moment in Victoria, there's no intention to create a demand.
No.
We've had an extra race on a Saturday. It's torture keeping up with form for all. Don't you find?
Yeah.
To be
Well,
able to keep up with now, great's an opportunity.
What do I do?
No, but I
Yeah.
mean, the amount of content to be able to
Oh,
keep up with it all. What did we last week? There was 6 meetings in 3 days and 7 meetings. Sorry, 7 meetings in 3 days.
How many metro meetings though?
There was 2.
Two. So that's I think that's compared to Hong Kong. There's 2 metro meetings. I mean, the country circuits, I think it's different. I mean, no, we've got to do the form on it all,
Yeah.
but I mean, we race on a Wednesday, we race on a Saturday. I mean, there's Friday nights in the night racing, which is a growth market, and they're trying to do more. But I mean, what I was going to say is that the hope of Bernard Saundry came out the other day and said early in the new year, they might be he's going to conduct a punters forum.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good start.
Yeah.
You'd hope they'd get a few heads along, and then that'd be good. Give them good positive feedback from if they're not got any wagering specialists there. Might need something.
I know Harness Racing have just formed an advisory committee, and I know Greyhound Racing are in the throes of doing that now. They've thrown it open to everyone. A good mate of ours, in Craig Knight, friend of the show, I think he's going to go on the Harness Racing one, and there's probably not too many that know more about wagering than Craig. So a couple of those guys, if they can get on there, like the 2 things that I think would be very interesting was what if they tied the wagering to the prize money of the event. But the key thing that they could do is do what New South Wales have done, bring in the minimum bet rule.
We'll get to that.
I suppose we'll get to that later. But I've got total self-interest here.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Potts has said some nice things over the journey. Has anything taught punters more than what RSN Carnival coverage was doing? Punters. Compared to any other media outlet?
No, there's nothing that
And it's not
actually teaches
because of Vince
Vince.
Kay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime
it's
you have
gone.
access to Vince, it's just
Well,
Exactly,
It's
but it's gone. So I mean,
Yeah.
where is their focus if they let something? Because the best feedback we always got, and unfortunately Vince is, wears his heart in his sleeve.
Yeah.
He's just over the moon every time we got any feedback saying you've educated me about racing. I can't believe what I didn't know. Which is what I put my hand up and say I can't believe what I didn't know until I started working with him. Now that's me personally. It doesn't mean everyone, but I know we've taught a lot of people, and it's gone. Now where is their focus if a product like that has so much passion, not wide, it was niche. But that niche passion is gone.
to credit Nadia does a great job on her show.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nick Pinkerton on,
Yeah.
Paul Daly,
Snowy.
and and you can listen. I go put a podcast. I used to podcast your show. Now I go for a walk on a podcast past it of a night, and I get a pearl out of it.
Yeah.
And it's something. So I can think about it. I can use that, and it's educational. And
Well, that's
things
another
like
thing that we've all probably learned from is all Mark's pearls.
Oh,
that.
amazing.
Right.
It's like, but the thing is, if you watch the mainstream stuff, you're never going to find any of that sort of stuff.
But why? That's my question.
Yeah.
My question is, why aren't the media outlets thinking, how are we going to educate the punter? Why is that not their starting point?
Well,
Because it's not anyway.
What do you want them to do?
Educate the punter.
Yeah. What do you want to do? Sit them down and get them in a room like this, and here's how to watch a video of. I mean,
Yeah.
you do your lunches and things like that, and they're great with Vince. But I mean, you couldn't do that on day-to-day. But when are you going to do it? People's work?
Sectional times on the screens in races.
Oh, well,
Breakdowns of races afterwards.
but you can educate people how to use that. I mean, the sectional times are there, but you've got to teach them, fast run racing, go slow run racing, coming home quick.
Yep.
It's all about, you need to sit down and learn who's going to run classes, or I don't know what.
Woodbine, which is the main track in Canada, actually did a series which went on their channel that actually taught people how to do the form, through sectional times, and about wagering, and tied that into their, I think it's on Woodbine International Day. That's when they have their, because tournament play is big in America and Canada, that's when they have their big championship tournament on that day, and it was tied in with having those sort of guys there, that they then filmed the series. And there was a 15-minute piece on constructing trifecta permutations, stuff like that. There's no resource where, if you are starting out, you want to learn more, where you can go, okay, well, what's a quinella and how do I go about staking it correctly and that sort of stuff. There's no educational stuff.
Speed mat,
or how to put a speed mat together.
Put it on the YouTube, racing.com.
Pots, don't you want to hear or watch or read someone that makes you go, fuck man, I never thought of it that way?
Absolutely. On the rare occasion, when Sky Channel, for instance, had Dominic Byrne on, I was glued to it. Now, I don't know if I'm the exception or the rule, I'm not quite sure. I think a lot of punters would have found that more interesting than the usual version of retro or whatever it's called now. And same when they had Sean Bartholomew on occasions. As soon as the punter show started and you could get access to watching Mark Lambourne and Glenn Pollock weekly, I was glued. So I mean, my feeling is there's a hunger for it. I think there's two issues, listening to what you guys have been discussing, that come to mind to me. That the breeders have got most likely too much influence in Australian racing. That's the issue that Hong Kong doesn't have to deal with. And the second thing is that we've been let down by the mainstream media. Once upon a time, racing had a comparable coverage to other sporting things, cricket and football and so forth. It's almost disappeared from mainstream media.
It wouldn't be a full-time horse race in Victoria played millions of dollars a year for it to be there.
And what I can't understand is that the people currently employed in those mainstream media roles have watched. Surely they can see what's happened and their diminishing influence over a fairly long period of time now. It's just got worse and worse and worse. And they're not doing anything different.
Yes.
They continue to do the same thing and wonder why they're shrinking. They're just shrinking. They're going to go into a ball until there's nothing left of them. So I would just think surely they need to try something different. Racing needs to try something different to attract a younger audience. Ralph mentioned the tournaments there. The tournaments are a great opportunity for racing because it puts the focus back on the players who are the punters who fund the industry, not on horses, trainers and jockeys, which is all that mainstream media has ever done. They've done it forever, and the problem is the general public that may or may not be interested in racing or have a propensity to gamble, that might play poker or something else, don't really care about trainers, jockeys and horses. But if they can see a punter that they can relate to, like they have with poker, right? They all want to be Phil Hellmuth or Daniel Negreanu or whoever their favourite poker player is. They can relate to that. They can sit there and watch how they play Ace King, relate to it, and they're into it. There are millions of kids playing poker. There are not millions of kids betting on horse racing. And until mainstream media starts to put more focus on the players, who are the punters and the bookmakers, the gamblers, I can't see anything changing.
And I'll give you a little example quickly. SEN, Melbourne's 24-hour radio station. It's fantastic if they give racing any coverage, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And a young guy is Stark in the making called Tristan Fernando. I'm driving my car Saturday night looking for stuff, and Tristan's got Adrian Dunn on from
racing.com. G1X. Yeah.
It's obviously a sponsored segment. No worries.
Yeah.
But they start talking about the demise. Poor what was that? Nobby's horse. Lord Esprit,
dumped Tommy,
and the injury to Tommy.
Yeah.
But then they go, there were some great news stories, which is where you come from, with the with trainers like Vincent Milady, Paul Pushkin, Steve Cunningham, all training winner in town. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I'm not so. I've purposely said Tristan because he's a friend. He's a star. Because that can be the case in so many media stories. They go, oh, well, Peter Mooney or Darren Weir's training another winner or whatever. Where if it's 2s into 6 to 4 and we're on.
Yeah.
We couldn't be happier. Bring him on. We want to be backing Damien Oliver or Glenn Bossler or whoever the best jockey is at the time, putting our money on the conference, Damien Lane, Elton Zara at the moment, and then truckloading. We actually don't care if a trainer or a jockey who really rides a winner or trains a winner gets a winner, because we're usually not on them.
No.
That's right.
If they did a story on a young lady that won her second top bet tournament on the weekend, and for the second time in a couple of months, put in $110 and walked away with $6,000.
Yes.
A lot of people would be interested in that.
Yep.
But they just, I mean, it wouldn't. It's just at the moment with the way mainstream media is, it just would not be on the radar.
Jockey suspensions at the end of a day. Yeah, it makes the news. Jordan Childs has been rubbed out for the next 10 meetings for interference. Now, outside of Jordan and his family, maybe a couple of his mates, who gives a flying? Now, but it's done up like it's
a big deal,
Nat Fyfe being suspended at the tribunal. People barrack for Fremantle, or that they're involved in fantasy footy or Brownlow betting. We don't care. When the fields come out, we'll see who the jockeys are, and away we go.
The other thing that you mentioned as well, Ralph, previously, and it's something that has happened over probably sort of our generation, is that we can remember getting up on Sunday morning watching World of Sports where Bill Collins was on there. But the same with Lou Richards and Bob Davis and the football blokes, it was all part of it. And it was the same with having the race results being put up on the scoreboards. I know it was the old suburban grounds and things have changed, but let's face it, even if it costs the industry to just flash up an ad during a break in play at the footy to put up the race result or put up the last 100 or something of the quaddie legs, surely that's got to help. Because everyone you speak to watches some other form of sport, and half of them are betting on sport. I know that over the past 5 years, I know the way my turnover's going, but everyone's
still racing's the dominant. It's 80% of the corporates and the turnover is.
Yeah, but that's only because it's the bigger players, though. Isn't it? But it'd be 80% of the customer base would be betting on sport, though.
Yeah, but I mean, racing's a much better margin. I know what you're saying,
yeah, but
these people are going to run off to sport. I don't buy it.
But what I'm sort of saying is we need to get the ones that are already betting on sport to flow across the bet into racing. If we do that, that'll definitely grow the pie.
I'm saying the younger demographic, Dan, are betting on, they're heavily focused on sport. So, if racing wants to engage them and get them involved in racing, they've got to do something different. Because we've had, in the last few years, we've had Black Caviar, and more recently we've had the Michelle Payne story, that racing seems to think will, help them engage with the general public and bring them into racing. And Black Caviar did for a while. People got interested in racing, but as soon as Black Caviar retired, they were all gone. So they've got to target their media at people with a propensity to bet, and whether it's on sports or poker, there's a lot that aren't involved in racing that could be.
Back in my footy show days and production meetings, Trevor Marmalade would have a great saying, and then what? So, and where I'm going with that is that if someone might come up with, this would be a good idea, we can do that, and he'd say, and then what? And it would be a challenging thing. And that's what you've got to ask when it comes to the Black Caviar story, the Michelle Payne story, and then what? Because it's fair, everyone says, well, Michelle Payne proves that it's a great story for racing, look at the coverage we've got. Well, yeah, it's
only good at the present.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like anything.
The only and then one is
it's in the past.
This is why you could have backed Prince of Penzance. I'll tell you why you could have backed 100-to-1 shot in the Melbourne Cup. Because had you forecasted at least slow pace, Prince of Penzance came from the biggest individual number in the race. We all fucking missed it, but it's true. 18 lengths above benchmark in the start of the Moonee Valley Cup, there was the biggest individual number.
Yeah.
So you could have backed 100-to-1 shot. Well, I'll tell you what, whoever backed that 100-to-1 shot or saw that, they'll stay involved in racing. To the people who applauded Michelle Payne, it's fantastic for Michelle and saying it's nice, but and then what? Do they stay involved with racing or not?
I just hope the people that potted me about potting her stay in the game. All right, that's the end of part one. We'll be back in a moment with part two.